Hola community, I'm Pablo Vazquez with another episode of Blender Today Live. On that Tuesday. Why? Because yesterday was a holiday in the Netherlands and for once we decided to take it. But I said I was gonna push this show from today to next week and I couldn't help myself. The developers have been working around the clock. There is one big feature which you may read about on the title of this video, but let's start with some other news for the time being. Okay, so first, here. Have you seen this, by the way? BlenderCloud, a blog post about hair and shaders and Simon Thomas. This is again not an advertisement because it's nothing. It's free actually. It's on the cloud. You can just read about it without a subscription. But you should check it out. It's super interesting. The guys are doing this kind of updates, just like sharing about geometry nodes or sharing about hair or about rigging, about everything. So you should check it out. cloud.blender.org/blog. Okay, and now to the thing that it's what we're here for. Faster cycles. Do we start with cycles right away? If you have any questions that I can try to answer towards the end of the show, go to blender.community and on the BlenderToday community, you're gonna find Faster Cycles by Nicola DMT. Thank you. Nice nickname. Okay, let's start with cycles. Let's just bring it in. Let's talk about cycles. Why not? Cycles. There is a bunch of updates that came a little bit out of nowhere, to be honest. At least for me, I wasn't following the recent developments. Besides the fact that the Blender Foundation, it's looking for Blender.org. It's looking for a rendering engineer, so which I think there are already some candidates. I don't know if maybe this will be removed already, but the rendering engineer is to focus on cycles. And in the meantime, there is the creator of cycles that is also working on cycles, also known as Brecht Valnomel. So the other day he committed this. Look. First of all, look at the time. Look at the time. Just Sunday. 23:51. So almost midnight. This landed on Blender Master. Faster animation and re-rendering with persistent data. So if you have used Blender cycles in the past, you know that for re-rendering, like every time you render with cycles, the textures will be like all the image textures are gonna be loaded into the memory, right? And there is this option in the performance panel that allows you to have persistent images. So in that case, every time you re-render, the images are not gonna be loaded again. So if you have a gigabyte of images of image textures, every time you render, they will not be reloaded every time. They will be stored in memory. Well, that now got extended to the rest of data. So let's see. Faster animation. Look at the amount of love that this got. So for cycles, when because also this is not only cycles, actually the section is called cycles, but let's start with the more more widely used of this new feature. So for cycles, when you enable the persistent data option, the one I showed you here, and that is called persistent data, it used to be persistent images, the full render data will be preserved from frame to frame in animation renders and between re-renders of the scene. What does it mean? That faster render, basically, because the loading of the geometry and all the data that it takes to render that scene, as long as the objects are not moving around, they're not deforming or like they're not changing, it will be faster to render. It's just storing that data in your memory. So yeah, it has one cost. It has one catch, that it will take more memory if you use that. but in exchange you get faster rendering. That's I would try that any day. Previously, the option was named persistent images and had a more limited impact on render time and memory. So one note, when using multiple view layers, only data from a single view layer, like the one we're rendering now, is going to be preserved to keep the memory usage somewhat under control. Remember, in Blender you can have multiple view layers, and those view layers can have their own collections and objects, and yeah, if all of those view layers will be stored, it would maybe have too much memory usage. However, objects shared between view layers are preserved. So if you have a bunch of view layers with the same collections and the objects in the collections are the same, this will work. This can speed it up. This will speed up render as well, even single frame render. So every time you press F12, or if you send it to a farm or re-render an animation locally, it's just gonna be faster by default. Isn't that great? At the expense of a little memory, but memory is cheap anyway, and yeah, it's just amazing. It's awesome for interiors, yes, if you're doing architecture or interiors or any, like if you have a character, one character alone that is deforming and changing a lot, well, that won't be very sped up because it's an object is deforming. But for all the other cases where you have an entire environment that doesn't change, it's not animated, doesn't deform, that will be much faster. What about Eevee and the workbench? So for Eevee and the workbench, this option is not available, so you can't toggle on and off. However, these engines will now always reuse the dependency graph for animation and multiple view layers. This can significantly speed up rendering. So the VVH equivalent for Eevee and the workbench is the depth graph. So it's the dependency graph is where all the relations between the objects are stored. And for example, if you change a modifier, if you set a modifier, and that recalculates the depth graph, all that data can be stored in for animation and for multiple view layers. So not only Cycles is faster, but also Eevee and the workbench is awesome. This is super awesome. So these engines do not support sharing the depth graph between re-renders due to technical issues regarding OpenGL contexts. Support for this could be added if those are solved. See the code comments for details. Isn't that great news? Isn't that great news? Faster rate rendering with persistent data. Cycles is the one that gets the most optimizations, most fruits, but in general it should be faster. And again, that's not the only optimization this week for Cycles. Look at this one. Light spread importance sampling for rectangular area lights. Why do you care about this? You care about this bit over here where it mentions that yeah, it's using importance sampling for rectangular area lights. But this is the part that you want to read. It massively reduces noise for shading points near the area light. So less noise means faster rendering, right? Less samples needed, so it renders faster. Super nice. So yay. Light spread importance. There is a new setting actually related to light spreading, which it was actually implemented by the community, by Matteo Falduto. User Matteo Legna implemented spread setting for area light. So if you look at the differential, the actual patch, which also got a lot of love, super nice. We'll see that now there is a setting. Oh, actually, there was a discussion on DevTalk where the discussion appeared in December, and now the patch is in Blender. Isn't that great? Oh, nice. So he was asking about it. He suggested it in... Oh my... So nice to read this. So Matteo suggested it on right click select, and this is equivalent. This is what it's supposed to simulate. So on real life photography, you add these kind of grids to a softbox, to a light, one of these big lights, softboxes, so you can direct the light basically, so it doesn't spread all over. So if you only have, so if the light is coming from a plane and you put this grid, the light will only go forward and not spread all over the place, which is what happens right now with area lights, until you tweak this setting for spread lights. So isn't this awesome? He made the post on right click select. He made a discussion on Dev Talk, and then he went ahead and made a patch, and the patch is now in Blender for everyone. So how do you control it? Well, it's now a setting. The panel is called beam shape, apparently. That I didn't check. So what if I here have a cycles, and this, I guess, is also gonna change. Yeah, the name of the panel changed also for spotlights. So far the spotlight had a panel called spot shape, but it was only used by the spot. So now it's also used by the area lights, and the setting is called spread basically, and you give it how many degrees you want it to spread. So the less degrees you have, actually there is a picture here to compare. So let's open it in the new tab. So here, spread 180 degrees. So the default is just all over the place. Then spread 120 degrees, so much shorter, 60 degrees, and then 20 degrees. So very focused. You're gonna need more power for that. Might lead to noise as well, but it shouldn't be an issue, because there was another patch and another fix actually by right after this for importance sample lighting, in importance sampling for area lights, right after this patch. So super exciting, so cool. And then you have these pictures for the spread. So cool. Thank you, Mateo, you are awesome. It's so cool to see the story of a commit, you know. Right click select, Dev Talk, and then here, and now everybody can use it in Blender. You know what else got updated in and actually added to the cycles presets? Do you use presets? I gotta be honest, I don't use presets in cycles or in Blender in general. In Blender sometimes, but in cycles I always set up my own settings, but presets can be pretty handy. The problem I have with presets in Blender is how they are implemented. So if you choose the presets, then you're not like in a preset. This is basically just a script that changes some settings. But yeah, the whole preset system needs to be reimagined. But hey, in light paths, in the light paths panel, now you're gonna find new presets. There is the default preset, which is basically the settings that you can find when you are when you just open Blender for the first time. The default, there wasn't one before, so if you change the settings before, there was no way to go back. Now there is. Direct light, fast global illumination, fast GI. This one is new, and we can actually just read it, the commit here. So the new ones are fast global illumination, or AO, ambient occlusion bounces, default presets that I mentioned, fast approximate GI, which I'm gonna mention in a bit, and the lower full global illumination samples having gone down to 32. So what does it mean? It means the AO bounces. Have you ever tweaked this setting? Have you ever even seen this setting anywhere in Blender? You may have not, because in 2.92, if I open Blender 2.92, you may remember this feature if you use here. If you use cycles in the simplify panel, there were these settings, AL bounces. So for the viewport and for the render. So this basically, it makes it so after a number of bounces, the global illumination won't be calculated. So it will be like after a number of bounces, it doesn't really need to be that precise, the global illumination. You usually just want the first or the second bounce to have the color bleeding and all the interesting lighting. But after a number of bounces, you can just not have that, and basically just use ambient occlusion with a little bit of tint from the background colors for the background of your world. And that's what this feature does. However, it was put here in the simplify panel, which meant that you had to have simplify on, and that it wasn't first, it was super hard to discover, and second, using this feature actually can help you in production, you know, like for an actual production. It's not a simplification only, it's not a way to just make your render simpler, it's actually a feature for production. So and usually if you work with a render farm, for example at the studio, we raise a warning or like a info letting you know that simplify is on, and sometimes force simplify off in some render farms. So it's good that it's away from simplify. And now this setting, if I grab the latest and greatest Blender down here, this setting is now available when using cycles in the sub panel called Fast GI Approximation under Light Paths. Same feature now in this panel, so it's more discoverable. You just turn it on and you choose how many bounces for the viewport or for rendering. The AO distance, so how far from the distance, this used to be in the world settings, I think. Now it's in the render settings with this panel. So same feature actually, it's been around for a while, but now it's more discoverable. So anybody here has been using that feature in the past? What happened with the music there? How's everybody in the chat? Big speed ups. Yeah. And this is not even a speed up. This is just a feature that was there, but it wasn't in the best place. How many more features can you think of that are useful but hidden in the darkest corners of Blender? Let me know. It's always fun to see what people are struggling with, or like why it takes so much to find some features. We're gonna mention a few more in this live stream. So let's switch gears to the other section of the day. I have geometry nodes, I have animation, a bit of everything. Let's hold on for the geometry nodes a little bit, mention a few random features. So top 3, I would say. Animation, riggers and animators. There is now a setting to display the axis of a bone, which you could do before, but the axis was always at the bottom, so it wasn't, or at the tip. Now there is a setting for it, so you don't even have to remember. Scott Wilson, proper squid, added this feature, made this patch. So the display the bones axis at the head root by default instead of at the tail, at the tip. So yeah, it was at the tip, it was at the end of the bone, the axis, and apparently it seems like it was just placed there at random. Ton even mentioned that in the patch, but now it's an option. By default, it's gonna be at the root of the bone, and you can control it with a setting. Actually, here there is a picture. So much love, so nice, and you can see here it's a toggle. You toggle the axis, and now you can control the position. So at the root or at the tip. Oops. Let's see. Sorry, I was distracted banning some people from the chat. How would you how coming to a chat and say subscribe in all caps to another channel, how is that gonna, how could you even think that the YouTube spam filter will let you write all caps the name of subscribe? And some people, it's like they've been in the internet for a day or so. Next feature, yeah, maybe it's a bot. Yeah, it's true, maybe it's a bot. Nobody in the right mind will think like, oh, I will enter this live stream and start screaming subscribe to my channel, and YouTube is gonna let those. Actually no, if you probably say some words that start with S and N in X, they let some of those comments go. I hate it. Sometimes it's so annoying. We hope we don't have that anymore. Now we get the by Blender. Yes, we get the by Blender. We had some fake websites posting download like Blender downloads, but they were hosting it, and they were probably sharing some kind of virus with it or so. But yeah. Now there's people. Now people are like, subscribe to Blender, subscribe to Blender. Nice. You see, this is what happens. It says show, hide. This is what happens. Yeah. So I should show hide. But if the person is doing it too much, I just ban. Time to stop a little bit of the sidetrack. You know what's back? Hover shortcuts for modifiers, for mesh modifiers. So the mesh modifiers in 2.92, so in 2.90, well, actually for a few releases now, since the moment the UI changed for the modifiers, you could just, if you had many, for example, you could actually, no, 2.92 didn't have it, and the community was complaining and giving feedback on it. No, it's just complaining, but giving feedback about the change. And so in 291, when the UI of the modifiers changed, the shortcuts on how you access them. For example, if I want to apply this subdivision here, I could just do Control A, which is the same shortcut that works in the viewport. However, it used to work on mouse over a panel. Then for 2.92, because we need the concept of an active modifier, because in geometry nodes, remember, we show the active modifier. If you have one, of course, then it's geometry nodes. It shows the active one. So we needed this concept of having an active modifier. So the interaction, the way you interact with it changed, and people were giving feedback that wasn't super great. So now it's back, the interaction without actually having to click on the modifiers. So if you have a bunch of modifiers, you can just do Control A, and it will, for example, if I want to apply the subdivision, but the array is active, I can just go here and Control A, and it's going to apply the one under the mouse. I miss this so much. I know it can be confusing though. It can be confusing for some people, but those people usually don't even know that there exist these buttons. So I think we are safe. The shortcuts is mainly for like, not hardcore, but more power users, you can call them. Press the shortcut with the mouse over the modifier that you want to apply. The same for deleting. If you want to delete, for example, you want to delete the first one, just mouse over, X. You want to duplicate, Shift D over the one you want to duplicate. This is awesome. Confusing for new users, useful for existing. Well, it's confusing for new users that know about it. So yeah, so if you don't know about it, and it's nowhere in the manual, like I think, and if you are a teacher or if you're making YouTube videos, tutorials, don't explain them this feature right away. It can be confusing. Just let it for the second part of the tutorial, the one where like if you're making a donut, for example. Those should be after you finish with the donut. Those shortcuts, I think. Otherwise, can be muy confusing. Delete should be delete, not X. Both work, I think. Now I don't know. Now let me. So if I press delete, yeah, delete works. And X also works. Both work. Why? What's wrong with X? I love X. I miss the X button in other softwares. X is brilliant. It's on your left hand. So if you're right-handed, it's awesome. It's like Control-Z. It's right there. X is beautiful. It's not a bad habit. The delete key works. Yeah, you can use the delete key, but who wants to leave your hand, your mouse, when you, or even point when you have your pen? You don't want to leave the mouse. Your mouse should always stay. Your hand should always stay in the mouse. That was a golden rule when I started using Blender nearly 20 years ago, 19 years ago. There was a PDF that I downloaded because I didn't have internet at home, and it was just a bunch, just learning how to use Blender. I don't know, it was super 50 pages. I don't know, it was crazy. And they had a golden rule at the beginning that I will never forget. It's like the golden rule of Blender is one hand in the keyboard, one hand in the mouse, always. If you see someone using Blender like this, they're not really using Blender. They're badly using, they're badly using Blender. And you should correct them and their posture. Okay, last potpourri section. This is for add-on creators, actually. If you're making add-ons, now there is a way to check if a node has multiple input sockets. So for example, the node wrangler is gonna make use of this, and the setting is called is multi-input. And this gives me a great segue to the section I'm gonna talk about is geometry nodes. Performance, faster boolean nodes. Yay! So nice when you have to share news about performance or things being just faster, just for free, you know, just like you don't have to do anything, just faster now. This is the case for improved speed of boolean node. In this case, someone did something. Hans did. He made it 40% faster, the boolean node, in some cases where there are only 2 input meshes. Isn't that great? Not only that, is that also now the node, let's see if you have a picture here. No picture, so I'm gonna make a picture myself. Add a new node, boolean, and look at this boy. He has 1 input here for the geometry, and then it has a multi-input socket. So now you can connect multiple of anything. Can I have, you know, so you can connect multiple guys here. Why is it removing it? Because it's not connected to anything? It can fail, but multiple input sockets. That is nice because you can also improve in performance, because it doesn't have to recalculate everything at once. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. I'm connecting a node and it's failing, so I'm using alpha versions. Yeah, but the drop down forces you 2 clicks. Transform with no geometry. Maybe that's it, right? Maybe it just doesn't like me because I'm doing transform without connecting it. So what if I connect to? No, still. Hey, what's the point of having multiple selects if I cannot multiple select? Maybe I just broke it. Wow, I wish you could see by the window. No, you cannot see by the window. It's raining, snowing sideways. April 6th. It's supposed to be spring on this side of the planet. And it's getting dark here, so I'm gonna turn on my face. Not my face, literally, but the lamp. All right, that's it with the Boolean node improvements. There's another improvement also by Hans. He separate the primitive x and y size for each for the grid primitive node. So we don't have a picture here, but I can just show you right here. I have it. You know, we have primitive since a few releases in Blender. So if you go mesh primitive, then you go to grid, and now you have size x and y separate from the amount of vertices. So it's you can make rectangles and shapes and stuff. Bam, here primitive, and then you can have it rig, and then split it. And the wireframe, is the wireframe working now? It wasn't working a few days ago. Yes, now it is working. Yay! Wireframe was broken a few days ago. I think Hans also fixed it, so thank you, Hans. So cool. And then you get to see in the spreadsheet. That's amazing. We live in the future. So yeah, separate size x and y size for the primitive grid. Super nice. Another nice addition is the float input for point scale node. Now you can use floats on top of the existing attribute and vector. So if I go, let's just demo everything. Point scale. You can choose now attribute, float, or vector. And there are more improvements in this area. Let me check. Let's see. The other improvements, the point translate and point scale, so the same node of what that we were just looking at, has it used to have attribute as default setting as in the drop down. Now has been changed, so instead of using attribute, which is, if you're an advanced user, for example, the point scale and the point translate, they used to have attribute by default, which if you are doing more of an advanced setup, maybe this is what you want to use. But if you're learning the software, the process, there are chances are that you're probably going to use vector. So this makes it a bit more user friendly because it's more clear, right? You know what this looks like, right? This vector, you know what to expect. In the future, it would be nice though if it would remember. Does it remember? Well, the thing is, you would probably gonna be duplicating. And if I add a new one, yeah, no, it goes back. Would be cool if I set it to attribute. Then the next one will use the previous, the last time I set it. Would that be for other nodes? Would you prefer that? Like every setting you change, well, not everything, like if I make it here 14 wide and then I add another grid, would you rather have it with the same settings or from scratch? From now, then you would just duplicate. The issue is like when you are inside of a group node or somewhere else in the tree and you add one from scratch. Yeah, could be interesting. Next improvement, it's, oh yeah, group input nodes. Now you can have a bunch of them, not only just one. Geometry nodes now supports multiple group input nodes. Previously this was not only supported within nested node groups. Now it's also supported for the root node group that is referenced by the modifier. Super cool. What else? More renaming for the volume to mesh. Is it volume to mesh? Yes, for the volume to mesh modifier. Now the name grid was renamed to density, which is more in line with the rest of the nodes and how they were being used. And this one is actually, this improvement is not only for geometry nodes but for the spreadsheet. Now the numbers, so for example, let's I made a mess here. Okay, so the float numbers are now aligned to the right. So yes, they are aligned to the right, and the booleans are aligned to the center. So if I have a monkey and I shade smooth, face corner, face here, so the booleans, so these little squares, are now aligned to the center, and the floats and integers are aligned to the right. So when you move around the values here, they are, what a mess there, they are now properly aligned. Also remember, the precision here is not very precise at the moment. Like if you use if you want to be super precise, this is rounded numbers. So if you move a value, for example this vertex, the real values are going to show up here in the sidebar in the 3D viewport. So a value of, for example, 1, 3, 4, 8 in here is actually I'm in the face and point here. So you see is 1, 2, 8, 1 is 1, 2, 8. 1, 2, 9, 25, 9 is actually rounded up to 926. Is this an issue? I guess it's for speed. And well, it just got worse. I'm talking about the, I don't know if I can show you the other, this webcam. Oh no, I can't. I'll probably make a mess if I, but I just want to show you. No, you can't see anything. Well, you can see a little bit of it going sideways. It's just crazy. Sorry, I get distracted, but super fun. All right, we're back. Yes, some flakes of snow. Yeah, there is snow, but the thing is that it's raining it's snowing sideways. That's what is fun. If you make that in 3D, they're gonna tell you you're doing it wrong. It's like, that's fake. You know what is not fake? The end of the news updates for today. So let's switch quickly into the questions. Let's see. Snow particles. Particles, yeah. I kind of want to go outside now. All right, let's see what's new in the question. Oh man, every time I see this website, Blender.community, you know what we worked on this weekend with Francesco? You know, it was a long weekend. It was a 3-day weekend. Well, Blender.community, the website, Blender community, it's the database, this database is now migrated to the new system, and so we get to test things in the new system, and it's so exciting because many of the issues are not there. The UI looks a bit better. So yeah. Let's see. First question, Tons fan. Hello Pablo. Heart. How are you? I am doing great. Thank you. And thank you for the emoji. I added emoji support to this website. Not a lot of people use it, but I guess because it's not super friendly on the phone. For the phone. Let's see. So I wanted to ask if we can expect a better shadow catcher which also catches colored light emissions while helping through colored reflections. Yes, you can expect it because it's been discussed a lot in the past. There is even a long thread on Dev Talk where it was pretty much agreed, as far as I remember, that it is needed. That is definitely needed to improve the shadow catcher. However, there was no one working on it at the time. However, again, with having a new engineer here, with Brecht working now like full-time accepting patches and stuff and adding their own things. I think the future of cycles is pretty bright, no pun intended. Okay, next. Somebody in the chat is asking, does Blender has a Discord? No, Blender doesn't have an official Discord, but some people in the community have made one. You can see it in Blender.org community. You can find a bunch of websites here in the Blender.org/community. Again, these are all community websites. They're not official. Actually, Blender chat is now kind of official. So it's not only unofficial, but Blender Stack Exchange is also community-based. Blender Artist, Blender Nation, they're all community websites. Right-click, select Blender.Today, Reddit, the Reddit Blender. I don't even know who is managing the Reddit Blender, but I know it's pretty active. Graphical. Blender Discord, here is one of them. And if you speak Spanish, I have my own Discord in Spanish, which I'm gonna shamelessly plug. It's a BlenderToday Discord, which is super fun. I'm not in the other Blender Discord, I'm in this one only. But it's fun. It's Spanish though. Español. And Portuguese. There is Portuguese people joining in. Next question by Tons Fans. What's a texture node editor's real motive? Texture node editor. I think it was just like, I think it's abandoned. That's the thing. It's abandoned. Nobody's working on it. Like for years, nobody worked on it. The thing is, it's just like its own thing out there in the back, in a corner of Blender, and it's really not bothering anyone, I think, besides making the editors list longer. The bugs, reported bugs, I think they have been fixed, but nobody is really working on it. However, the fact that it's still there, it says a lot. You know, it might not be super advanced, it might not be even advanced, but it's there. And the fact that it's still there and it wasn't wiped in the big wipe of 2.8 together with the game engine and Blender internal means that there are people want to work on it and improve it. So I'm hopeful, and it's the future. Come on, texture painting and texture editing is the next big thing that Blender needs, more than physics, I would say, more than anything. However, yes, when I say this kind of more than this area, more than that area, it doesn't mean some people out there, when they think about Blender, they think as if Blender was one guy or one girl or one Blender Foundation deciding what to work on. But many of the projects around Blender, they are completely separate projects inside of Blender. So the fact that Grease Pencil is getting developed doesn't mean that Video Sequencer is getting less developed. The fact that the Blender Video Sequence Editor is getting updates recently doesn't mean that there is less people working on the Texture Node Editor. It's just different areas. It's like complaining to Google that they are not working on Google search because they're working on Android. It's like, you know, it's completely separate parts. Okay, now I can't even see out the window because it's so white. Okay, next question. Also, which section will have a major improvement after multi-threaded implemented? Maybe through Vulkan. Yes, yeah, Vulkan supports multi-threaded, so that's gonna be one big major improvement section. And also I think geometry nodes could get improved, and line art multi-threading, that also is gonna speed things up. Facundo de la Rosa. Hi Pablo, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Is it planned, because I don't have to go out, is it planned to improve property modifications to multiple objects in a simple way? I know the trick to press Alt, but it doesn't work in all cases. And for example, you cannot add a modifier to multiple objects at once. Yes, I see what you mean. The multi-object editing is one of the projects that it's it's in the radar. So like there are plans to improve it, not only in like these cases, but also in the user interface. So when you have multiple objects, there is a task on developer. I just don't remember which one, like the name. So multi-object editing, maybe like under that name. Yeah, property editing. There's 2 tasks with the same name. I know, properties and property editing. Yes, so there are, for example, the UI could look like this. When you have multiple objects and they don't have the same value, it could show like this, and the editing should happen right away. There is a task, there are discussions. When you have multiple objects selected and the features don't match, we could show or hide certain parts of the UI. I think even the work that Hans has been doing, well, he's done for search, that you can hide certain parts of the UI. It's gonna help this project as well. So yeah, there are designs. So it's gonna happen eventually. Not sure when, but that would be a good Blender 3.0, 3.1 feature, wouldn't it? Blender 3. That sounds like Blender 3, multi-object editing. Matterform says, will Blender get ACEs for color management option? I can't send to a farm for work till it's available, and I have to buy other softwares to post renders. There are implementations. You can implement your own locally, and if the farm, the farm should let you do that though. It's fairly like most farms let you actually make these kind of changes. But yeah, no, it in the future might another breaking feature though, so maybe it's a good chance for Blender 3. Thandu Adrian says, hi Pablo, did you know that Blender is used in one of the main programs in the Amazon original Man in the High Castles workflow? Well, let me introduce you to blender.org/about/user stories. And then Wolfwalkers game, I Lost My Body, amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. I watched it the other day. It's in French, and it's only available with Dutch subtitles in the Netherlands. So it was quite a challenge, but I enjoyed it quite some. And at some point you're gonna see here visual effects for the Man in the High Castle. Oh, the video's not available, but yeah, there is an interview here. There is a user story about it, Barnstorm. So yes, we are aware. Have you spoken to the studio about what improvements they think Blender needs? They've been in touch with Blender in the past, so yeah, it's weren't they at the Blender conference at some point even? Next question, Silas. Hello, what a weather change here in Germany. Yeah, right. And now it's sunny. Last week I think the week before, we were with a t-shirt outside. Just some quick update questions. Have you asked Shaq Luke about the rigid body changes for fracture modifier? No, I haven't. And Sebastian Vazquez about the npm solver for MantaFlow? No, I'm sorry, I didn't. You can poke them. They're gonna hate me if I say that, but yeah, you can poke them maybe on the chat, or maybe ask on DevTalk. Is that the place? Andre Kling. Hello Pablo, I would like to ask if there will be any training coming to the cloud by other contributors to the open movie. For example, the director of the new movie in this case, his experience in storytelling would be awesome to share with the community. Or perhaps some course on art direction or directing in itself. Thank you, love the show. Wow, actually art direction will be pretty interesting. We don't have that. We have, well, videos talking about the whole art direction, but not like teaching art direction. I think nobody at the studio studied for being art director. Maybe Andy, but it's more like it just evolved But yeah, maybe from that point of view, it's also nice. However, yeah, the director, I don't know if he's busy directing the film. However, in the cloud recently, Colin Levy has been giving feedback on, for example, here, art review on the, this is gold, on the
guys, Colin here. Happy Wednesday. I should
giving feedback on the Agent 327.
Thanks for setting up this review folder, if that makes sense. So as an
this is
handled.
Well, if you know, Colin worked at Pixar for like 4 years. He directed Sintel before Pixar. He's directed a short film, Skywatch, that is just killing it, and they're gonna have its own series.
So I think if we can find a way to really pull back the amount of light, really pull him in shadow a little bit.
You see, bam, you got now a tip.
So take him down
about darkening this. He worked at the layout department at Pixar, so he knows what he's talking about. He also gave feedback in other shots, and he also had tutorials on Sintel, but this is like 10 years ago. However, he is gonna give some feedback here. 13 days ago, there is a whole bunch of spoilers here, so yeah, beware, spoilers. But Colin goes through the edit, so through the film Sprite Fright as at its point in time, and spots change, mentions like 1 hour here talking about what to change, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 14 minutes. Should I show the spoiler? No, I'm not gonna show the spoiler. This is Cloud subscribers though. You should check it out. This is just amazing. There's a blog post I think coming talking about this edits. It's not there yet, the blog post, but the content is there. So yeah, super exciting training regarding directing, layout, storytelling, and that is something that you cannot get anywhere else but in the Blender Cloud. Let's continue. Okay, it's kind of late, so let's do 5 more questions. How late is it? Yes, 1 hour. The user, hopefully I don't get banned, 3735. Hello Pablo, is there any plans for the hair object type in 2021? Yes, there are plans. Curves to hair especially, as it's highly requested by the community. Actually, tomorrow we have a meeting about attribute, edit mode, painting, which is kind of related with the rest. But I would say 2021 is the year for everything nodes. So the project of geometry nodes is pretty much in good shape and ready to be moved into, well, actually it's over as a project of just the geometry nodes team. Now it's more of a module project, so the entire module for nodes is taking care of the geometry nodes project. Then it would be a good opportunity in a few weeks maybe to switch gears to either collection nodes or hair nodes, but the hair part needs a lot of design prior to that. And curve support is coming soon, by the way. Next question, number 4. Hi Pablo, when I append a collection from another file, it doesn't remember the visibility setting. Is there a way to fix this, or is there a good reason why it behaves this way? Well, it's the good reason, or the reason, it's that the visibility of a collection is local to the scene, to the view layer actually. So when you append it from another file, the visibility, all the properties for that collection depend on the view layer. Because in each view layer you can have different visibility for the collection. So you have a character that only shows up in a certain view layer, for example, view layer / render layer. That is the reason that the property is not part of the collection, is part of the view layer that decides which collections to show. The objects inside though, that belongs to the collection, to the objects. Question number 3, Slug Nugget. Hey Pablo, tell me things about tool nodes. Haha, you probably have seen the sneak peek videos of tool nodes. Well, all I can say, so I don't spread fake news, is that there is a concept going around of having tools like these guy tools, like on the sidebar, attached to a node. So if this node, well, this one in particular no, but let's say we have a node transform or mirror or mesh edge split, I don't know, any node or your own custom nodes can have a tool. So the idea is that once you have this selected, that you will see some kind of tool here widget that you can control in the viewport and stop having so much focus in here and do it more in here. So the best of both worlds. I think that will be really powerful. That's gonna be super cool. Extrude node, yeah, exactly, like Bruno says in the chat. Extrude could be a tool node. Both a node with a tool. Basically, under the hood, I think what you've seen, it's a node that has a little bit of Python attached to it that that makes the widget show up. Question number 1, I think, or two more. Thando Adrian, another question: are there any plans to improve camera in Blender and add focus features like diopter effect? What is the diopter effect? Ah, the one where both things are in focus, even things close and far away. Yeah, you can do that, I think, with faking it with a lens. But yeah, no, I haven't seen plans to improve that in particular. I think the camera object is one of the most left behind objects like ever. There is an add-on, camera rigs. There is an add-on for camera rigs which adds a list of camera rigs. So you have dolly, crane, 2D camera rig. So maybe the effect that you mentioned maybe could be part of this. But yeah, the camera, I think it needs some love. Like right now, come on, it looks like this. The widgets are nowhere as cool as they could. When you're in the view, you can't. You should have more options here. Like, yeah, the controls here in the viewport, like a camera like the one I'm using now. It has a whole bunch of settings and controls around it. Overlays. Yeah. What else? And I also think, let me know what you think about it. I always try to bring it up, but I never get it. I never made a proposal for it. But I think the camera should always be accessible. It should always have a button here, like a context for the active camera, always, because it's like the world. The world is always there. The camera is always there. You can't do a lot. You can do a lot without a camera. Can be grayed out. You cannot have a world, but I think the camera should always be there, because I hate it when, like, if you have the camera that you make it unselectable because you don't want to mess up with the camera. You have a rig. If you link this rig and then you cannot access it because it's in post mode or it's not appended or linked, whatever, and then you can't select the camera. You have to have a shortcut, and then here I cannot select it to change the settings. So the settings, I have to look for it in the outliner, select it, and then select it, and that is so annoying. A camera is essential, just as essential as the world. It should always be accessible. So I need to make a proposal for it, because I keep complaining to myself, to no one. I just rant. You know the old man yells at cloud? Well, so yeah, this is me basically. Old man yells at camera, but I could make a proposal and maybe even get picked up, but I never done it. Okay, last question, because I didn't manage. I forgot to scroll to the bottom to answer the ones that were first asked. So I'm gonna answer Nicholas, because he made the blog post, the post. So, hi Pablo, unfortunately with a daily meeting at work, conflicting time, I have struggled to watch BlenderToday live streams lately. Oh, Have you decided to stop making the quick 2 or 5 minute videos about individual new features? This could still be very useful for those of us who can't make it to the weekly appointment. I will also have to watch your reply from the recorded stream because I have meetings at work at the time of the live. I haven't decided to stop making those videos. It just happened. It just happened with it conflicts with other things I have to do for communication. Sometimes there is a release and then I stop doing everything else. So it's just, yeah, it's not really a decision per se. It just happened. I think I stopped making them when I started working on geometry nodes, I think, more because I have a meeting every day and I have to work for that meeting sometimes, or I have to do Blender.org or communication or live stream. But it could be brought back, I think, more about individual new features. What do you like the best? I also like to hang out here and see the chat, what people are doing, but yeah. What do you think? I think we should cut it here because it's 1 hour 5 minutes, and the longer it's this video, the less people are gonna watch it. So I can remove this. Let's hang out here for a bit. How do you... Yeah, people are actually sharing that there's people making short Blender updates, but the problem with other people making updates is that not always they know if things are actually happening or it's just a test or it's just a demo, and there's a lot of speculation with other channels, which I can clear up because this is the official Blender channel. So that gives it an extra level of maybe credibility, or at least you can trust that is not just a video made to... Well, these videos are not monetized, so we are not selling anything. These videos are not monetized, no advertisement. So it's just information. While other YouTube channels, maybe they're just making a video because they saw a prototype, like the tool notes. I saw it in one of those videos, and it was like the title of the video, and it's like, come on, it's a prototype, you should read the logs, that it's not really gonna happen now or for 2.93, it's just a prototype. So yeah, the disappointment has to be controlled, the hype has to be controlled, or not. Let's discuss that next week, right? Same place, same time, but on Monday, back to regular schedule. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, watch out your ear holes because it's coming. It's been a pleasure. I would be lying if I say that I didn't do this live stream because I wanted to hang out with you, even on a Tuesday. I was really gonna do it next week, but I kind of missed the interaction. Sounds a bit weird. Lockdown. See you next week. Same place, same time for Blender Today.